Yeah, feeling really powerful right now, man, thanks to AI.
just,
Um,
just a little bit.
just a little bit. Welcome in, everybody.
Mhm.
The AI Native Shift new series, and grateful to get to start it with the one and only George B. Thomas, who's been doing a little AI native stuff here and there.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit, my friend.
Diving right in.
Yeah.
Uh, Not surprising that you've gotten here where we're talking about brains, because you
Yeah.
often, like one of my favorite phrases, like, "Where's your brain at? Where's your
Yeah.
brain go with that?"
My
Right?
my brain goes in this direction.
Right. Well, now you got two brains.
Yeah.
You can do with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I do. I do. Have been really nerding out on what the internet, a lot of YouTube channels and whatnot are calling second brain. I actually went a little bit different direction with that when I named the folder structure of ours. I call it main brain. And the reason it's main brain is because it is now in charge of, Chris, all knowledge that we learn ourselves. I can explain that along the way. All knowledge that we wanted to bring into the brain to be smart and add value quicker, because as we've talked historically, it's about time to first value. All processes for content creation, because it also now holds the websites that we build things on. It holds also client information. So for client processes, like we have a client that we actually build in a very AI foundational based structured way, their newsletter. And instead of a human needing to spend half a day to do it, we can spit it out in about 10 minutes, to which then Jorge does a little copying and pasting, and poof, they've got a newsletter, and one of their employees has half a day back to do other stuff that is more important than necessarily the newsletter around branding and things like that, or writing their next book, whatever it may be. So it holds all of this information. It literally is the main brain when it comes to sidekick strategies, clients, content creation. But if you hear people talking about second brain on the internet, just know that that's kind of on steroids what we have built here. Which I can show you around. I can talk around that. The one thing I will say too before we get into the show and tell is it's very much based on 80% technique, um, the rest tech, meaning it's low tech solutions. I want everybody to realize what we are showing and talking about are folders, files, and rules. And the layer that you're going to see is Obsidian, which is a free software. And you're going to need to understand that for me right now, it's Claude Code as the driver or AI behind the assistant that is Echo. And you need to understand too that at any given point, I could throw the anti gravity harness in Gemini 3.5 as it's coming out after the Google I/O release. And that could run what I'm going to show you. I could jump over to Codex in GPT 5.5 and that could run it. Eventually, if local models get good enough, for instance, we're using Gemma to do some of the work where Claude Code is Batman, Gemma is Robin, so that we don't burn a bunch of tokens up. And so we're using local. But if local ever gets great enough where you wouldn't need a subscription style model, well, that could run this, right? So it's very modular in what could run it in the future. Anyway, those are some things that people need to know. So, Chris, just based on that, I guess, where does your brain go? What questions do you have? And where do we want to take this next?
Well, I'm interested in, like, two things come to mind. I know you just did a webinar last week. I'm
Yep.
interested in understanding how various audiences are responding to
Yeah.
like this level of uh, complexity, but also like you're 6 months in, I'd say, to this like Claude Code
6 to
based
9. Yeah. Yeah.
journey
Yeah.
after a couple years of AI generated content, learning just,
GPT. Yep.
with LLM,
Yep.
after 10 plus years of creating content, like, and
Yes.
just trying video, like trying whatever new.
Yeah.
I'd love to learn about like your decision to move in these, like where you've gone that got you to here. But first, like, where are people at? Like, real talk. Like, when you show this to somebody, is it like just like glossing over? No way I could ever
No.
do that, or
No,
like,
no. First of all, what was fun, and the reason I did a webinar last Friday, and by the way, you can literally go to sidekickstrategies.com, go to like the events, or actually, it's a blog article now. You can go to blog article, the webinar's up there, you can watch it. But no, Chris, the reason I did the webinar was one, I put a screenshot of what I was building on LinkedIn and just said, is this even something you guys are interested in? And the amount of comments, do it, build it, like register, where do I register? Like that kind of stuff was enough where I was like, okay, I'll spend the 30 to 45 minutes educating humans on this journey that I've been on and see what they want to do with it. So I'll say that the amount of questions I got during that webinar were awesome, because you could tell when people are asking questions, it means they're diving in because they're going to pull the threads that I'm offering them to do the thing for them and customize to them. So questions were great. There wasn't like glossing over. People were definitely leaned in because I use meetings instead of webinars, so like I can watch them. Everybody knows they can be on camera. They can ask questions along the way or ask it at the end. It's totally up to them. So there was a good vibe in there. And I'll tell you, this is also, we're coming off of next Monday. We'll do the last training for our 4-week AI content system training that we're doing. And we taught this, a little bit of this in that as well. And people were like, ooh, that's kind of the secret sauce that maybe I need to lean into to get more out of what I'm trying to do. Which, by the way, that 4-week training is now going to be a 10-week training. And we're doing cohort 2, July 6th is when that starts. You can go get your seat for that as well. Not to be promotional, just letting everybody know that these things are out there. This is where my brain's at. It's nothing different than what I've done with HubSpot. Learn HubSpot, teach humans how to use HubSpot. I've been through this journey of learning AI and building things. Now it's just, I'm just going to teach people and they can use it to do the good things in the world that they need or want to do to speed up processes. So that's my
so
answer for that. Yeah.
it's interesting. Like, and now I want to zero in on these transitions
Yeah.
like you've made, because like you mentioned the AI content system,
Yep.
that was a thing before you did the second brain, right? Like that thought, that like focus on like, don't think of it as a website, like
So
think of all of this stuff as systems.
it was so AI content system was kind of a thing before second brain, or before I had kind of named it second brain. So if we go back in time, the first iteration of this sort of pseudo was I came out and said, hey, I've got this assistant named Echo. And Echo was basically like my assistant for this like one project that I was doing. And then I started this other project, and then all of a sudden I had Alex, which was my chief operating officer, which was basically the Echo, but to this project, because I was being very project specific. And I was like, well, I've got to have this bucket, and I've got to have this bucket, and I've got to have this bucket. And then, holy God, that's a lot of buckets. And so then I came to the conclusion of like, hey, maybe I'm going to have a conversation with the assistants and be like, could this be one bucket? And if so, what should we be thinking about, and how could we build that? And so Alex is still the COO of the Sidekick Strategies website and agent team. Echo is the main conversational system that we use to do the day in, day out stuff that can then also communicate with said agent team. There's also a complete agent team on the spiritual side of leadership.com. But anyway, like that's just like structure, agents, skills to think about. But that was the journey of like too many buckets. How do we make it one bucket? How do we make it super smart? How do we really give it identities it can use? I can show some of this, but like it's cool. People are like, hey, it's cool. Like I can make it sound like me. Like there can be a George B. Thomas identity. However, there should be an identity when I'm doing training, an identity when I'm doing writing, and an identity when I'm doing like videos, right? Because there is a tone difference to the voice that is me, George B. Thomas. And so how do you create different identities, or how do you live in a world where you can say, hey, I need you to pick up the identity of Make Taxes Fair. They're a client of ours that help people not pay too many taxes that live in America and make over XYZ dollars amount. We need to build this thing, use their identity. Let's create this thing together. So think of identities off of the shelf like a spice rack. Like that's the world that I need to live in, right? And so how do you train them? How do you make them smart on all of these clients or identities that you need, whether it be internal or external? So this is why the process was like, let's build this. Let's get there. Yeah.
So interesting. Like, because even though I've been watching this and like, we're slacking each other all this time, like these ideas, I was going to ask what made you decide to build this next thing. I'm interested in that, like that specific journey, and like when you decide to really dig in and take the weekend to build out this structure. But in reality, you're showing up with the problem.
Yeah.
And you start talking to AI about solving that problem.
Yeah. And exactly. And also the true nature of this is consolidation. What I mean by that is there are so many places that I've got to go to do the things that I want to do. And how can I make it where there's one place to do the things, and the place also knows the things, so that it can do 90% of the things that my brain just needs to tell it the 10% to activate it. Right. So like I got to run over to email, and then I got to go check my calendar, and then I've got to go over to this CMS platform, and I've got to go to Photoshop to build a thumbnail. And then I've got, screw that. Like, how can it be a conversation that interacts with a set of agents that have a set of skills, that have access to a set of tools through API, and beep, bop, boop, poof, you've just created something that would have taken 2 weeks to create, and it's like an hour of your time and a little bit of back and forth conversation. And by the way, for us, for clients, for whatever, this world where an idea can become a thing at rapid rates, right? Anyway,
we're in it. We're in that world. You can start showing whenever you want. I'm sure I'll have a bunch of questions.
Yep.
So a lot of it relates to like that decision point of like, when are we done building, or like which next thing makes sense? Because what you just described there, like I've been thinking about and asking for things like that. Like, all right, V, my COO, like I want one space to do everything from.
Yeah.
And back in February, the concept of this, like there were some people using Obsidian and the concept of wikis and like started happening. So we used that to build out this infrastructure. I, of course, like I usually do, go overboard with the number of agents and all these things. And as I see this, I'm very interested in what should I be thinking about in terms of how to go from this infrastructure to a new infrastructure, what questions do I need to be answering for myself? And again, like we find ourselves back here, like this is SaaS, this is
Yeah.
CRMs in general. Like,
Yeah.
how do you, when is the right time to move? Like, when is it the right time to put effort in?
Yeah.
If it's not like 100% broke,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think listen, at the end of the day, you buy a sports car, you still are like, ooh, but I can get that turbo put in and I can go just a little bit faster. Or, you know what? This would look super dope if I just added that fin to the back of it. Like, so some of it, what I'm saying, Chris, is there's the build. And then there's the like pimp my ride, right? And so I think you get to that level where it's not such a build, but it's now more like little things that you want to add into it to make it that much better. I also think that part of my answer for you is like, when do you build this thing or when do you add a thing? And it's when your gut or your brain or whatever you're driven by tells you like, hey, I could save XYZ amount of time or add XYZ more amount of value if I could build these set of tools. And so again, for me, it's like, how do I create a command center that interacts with the main brain, right? And so now what I've done is I've dropped us off at the identity part of this because it really is important to focus on identities. It's the foundation that everybody pretty much skips. Okay. And it's like, people have heard me preaching this for a while, though, but it's like, what are the mindsets? What are the beliefs? What are the core values? What's the mission? What's the vision? What's the personas? What's the, all those things that make up an identity, the voice and tone and just things so that it's very knowledgeable. Okay. And so right here, if I open this identities folder, I want you to realize that even my agent Alex, knowledge, identity, clients, and I can open this up, have identities. There's knowledge article identities. There's sidekick strategies identities, right? And as I'm opening these up, you see that there's just different layers of files that are creating these identities. And so when I say, hey, pick up the identity, by the way, this is start here. Who am I? I'm just a guy. By the way, the amount of times I'm just a guy. I'm a guy who happened to fall in love with HubSpot. And, like that's the thing. Recovering control freak, former workaholic. I got wheeled out on a stretcher, right? I don't have time for this. I got a meeting in 10 minutes. Right. So this is literally like, what's the superhuman framework? The 10H pillars, my philosophies, seeds over 2x4s, right? Significance over success, healthy hustle, no hustle culture. So when I say, hey, write an article based on the identity of George B. Thomas and my mindsets, my beliefs, and my core values, how much does AI not have to guess? It doesn't have to guess. It becomes the digital version of me because it knows my daily practices. It knows the mentor influence, what I'm building. It keeps track, and I can add and tweak all of these things. And by the way, one of the reasons I love using Obsidian is because now I can come in here and I can like tweak or edit in line the files that my AI is paying attention to. So if all of a sudden I wanted to add an element, I could either ask Echo to add an element, or I can type in and tweak an element. But it knows my wife, the amount of years that I've where originally from, which actually I was born in Ohio, right? So I could literally come in here and be like, actually born, right? And then be like Ohio. And then I could be like Montana by age of 3. And now I literally made it smarter by typing 2 lines if it goes to actually tell my story. Okay. So this is, I'm bringing people into identities because I need everybody again to know technique over tech. It's the foundational piece. That's just like there's story banks in here, but we'll get to that.
Right.
I
So
want to
like,
pivot. Okay, go ahead, Chris. Yes.
well, the technique part and like bringing it back to folders and files.
Yes.
which people know well. I think that's a very interesting conversation to have with folks. Like when you get to the bottom of this stuff, like you've been saving files digitally for decades, right? Like, and that's at the heart of
Yeah.
this. So it's not like some crazy like
No.
infrastructure that we're talking about here. But when I see this is not like some, at least on the surface, it's not some like tricked out mastercraft like markdown file with
No.
hashes here and code and like
Well, and that's the thing. I love Obsidian because it is actually marked down, right? But as soon as so when I click into it, it's paying attention or reading the markdown, but I don't have to look at it as
yes,
markdown. I can look at it as like a normal human would look at it. So this is an H3, right? This is an H2, like but I love the fact, and also the fact that there's on some of these you're going to see what's called front matter. So that's where it gets a little bit nerdy of like the links that it should be linking to, or the tags that it should be tagged with. Because one of the things, and we can come back to this later, is one of the things that everybody needs to understand is these files and these or these folders and these files, they're creating the brain. And so like right now, what you're seeing is the actual brain. And I can kind of zoom out here a little bit just so you can kind of see like there's pieces out here and over here, and there's these different structures. But what it's doing, and again, I'll dig into this left-hand side and we'll talk about intake, we'll talk about wiki, we'll talk about raw. But if I come here and I just grab one and I start to drag it out, you're going to see that there are these threads. And basically, it's like, what does this actually associate with, and what other information should it be paying attention to? And so this is literally like a Hub Heroes podcast episode and all the things that it links to. I could come over here and just start to grab something. And like, this is literally, attributed submissions and like what it actually attaches to. And so I want you to realize that it's basically creating like this almost real style brain. In what I mean by that is like it has the connective tissues that just a normal folder structure with files doesn't have. On you, like that's what a layer of this that Obsidian adds, is that the synapses that fire across each other when it's trying to do that.
right. In the amount of tokens that I've burned to say like V, I'm not gonna read that markdown file. Okay, I hate it. Like make an HTML, like create something that I'm actually gonna enjoy reading so that I can review it. Like that I'm loving right now in terms of like it's like a human focused display. Like and I've had Obsidian like sitting on my bottom taskbar for a while.
Well, just wait till we get to the command center, brother. Just wait. It's like, to me, it's mind blowing. And by the way, how we got to the command center. So, let me hit this real quick because I want people again to, and by the way, if there's people watching this or they want help with this or whatever, like just hit me up on LinkedIn, send me a DM. Like I'll answer any questions, or if you literally want like some coaching time or whatever. Because I know what this will unlock for humans. But Chris, I want to talk about some of the basics. And what I mean by that is there's an intake folder. And what happens in this intake folder is you will add a file to the intake folder, and then you'll be able to do a slash command that is /intake process. So let me give you a real world example. If I had 60, let's say, episodes of the Beyond Your Default podcast that I did, that I think everybody should listen to and know how to be more human in an AI world, I can take all 60 episodes to the intake folder. I can go /intake process, and it processes all of those files that I've put in this intake folder. And when I say processes, what I want you to first realize is this is the vault that never changes, which is the raw, meaning it's going to take those and it's actually going to go ahead and put them in to a place that is raw files, Beyond Your Default, and transcripts. So the real information is always there and never changes. Now, when I say processes, what it also does, Chris, is it puts it in raw, but then it starts to create a wiki. And it can be a wiki in a couple different things. It can be clients, it can be concepts, it can be lessons, it can be people, project. Like this will grow, but it's starting to build the subsections of the brain and the information. So if I go lessons and, beyond your default, and then let's just say I click on this one, and what's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and give me this markdown file, which is healthy hustle versus anti-hustle versus hustle culture. Now, you remember when I pulled the brain out, Chris, and I gave it a little drag and you saw the lines? That's because here it's linked to the raw transcript, okay? But it also has tags of like type, it's a lesson, status, this is just in draft because it's not actually getting thing. It's personal growth, and it's the Beyond Your Default podcast, which, by the way, notice this Gemma 3.12. Remember when I talked about Claude Code being Batman, Gemma being Robin? Whenever I have it process into wikis, I have the local model do that because it doesn't have to be that smart, because Claude Code gave it the plan to then execute the thing to create these wikis. But now notice in here are the key points. Here's the teachable moments. Here's the next steps. Here's concepts that are referenced in this concept, open questions, and then source. And so this, what you're seeing is what makes this magical, because now if I said, hey, pick up the identity of George B. Thomas, let's do an article on healthy hustle and blah, 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 agency owners. Now, all of a sudden, it's picking up this concept. It's then linking to the raw information to pick it up. It's looking at our personas, which is agency owners. And now it's starting from all of it knows about me. All of it knows about healthy hustle and my thoughts from Beyond Your Default. All of it knows from personas and agency owners. Now, how much do you think AI is guessing? It's not.
It's not.
It's not. All right. So now the other thing is, so we got wikis. We've got the raw, and then like if I'm creating things, I've got an output folder. So I always know when I'm creating something that it's going to be either client related, course related, me related, hub heroes related, sidekick strategy, spiritual. So now I know I can go into certain folders, and inside these certain folders, I can find the certain things that I've actually created to then output or be able to go back to the output. Same thing with the idea of clients, right? And so this all started though, Chris, just so you know, it started with intake, journal, by the way, I need to circle back around to that, raw and wiki. That's what it started with. Journal, by the way, writes itself. It's literally like the days and what happened during those days. So like, let's look at the 26th, right? So the 26th, if I go in here, at 10:15, ingested NASDAQ Center HubSpot working session with Whisper. By the way, Whisper is on my computer. It does my transcripts, and it's a free download, a tool you can use. And it just brings all that information, decisions, open threads, files touched. And so I can go back in other days and be like, hey, show me, morning launch, Friday, May 21st. And then all of a sudden it's looking at all this information throughout my day. And I didn't do any of this. Anything that you're seeing right here, the system is just pulling that information in. So the journal gives me the ability to be like, hey, I think it was like last Tuesday or Monday, I was talking to somebody about this thing. Can you just sift through the journal and see like where that happened? And then boom, it can bring up the information. Okay. So then I added in modules of sites. And so the George B. Thomas, the psychic strategy, spiritual side of leadership, I can literally work with Echo in the main brain. And it has the rules to know when I say we're working on psychic strategies, it pushes to this psychic strategies GitHub repo. But when I tell it we're working on main brain items, it knows to push to the main brain repo. Because by the way, main brain does have a GitHub repo because I want to back up the main brain. So if I want to take it to another computer or my computer died, I don't have to rebuild the main brain. Main brain is being saved every day, which by the way, one of the things that we do every day at the end of the day is we do a /dream. And what slash dream does is it tweaks, fixes, deletes all the things in the brain that need to be like connected together and like whatever, and like optimizes the brain every day after the day's over. Okay.
Like sleep.
Yeah. Like sleep. It regenerates itself so it's ready to rock and roll the next day. Okay. So those are like the core concepts. And again, all of these kind of have rules. And what I mean by that is there's literally like a claude.md file, a memory.md file. There's actually a soul.md file in here as well that tells Echo how to kind of interact with me along the way. Because I've made it to be like, yo, sometimes I just need you to get in my face and push back. I need you to be like, and it'll literally say, hey, going into pushback mode, here's something to think about, right? Like, and I'll be like, yeah, actually, I like that, but what about this? And so I need it to be a sparring partner, which, by the way, it's actually used that. Okay, it's time to be a sparring partner.
But a respectful. Like, imagine if humans did that. Like, hey, I'm going into pushback mode right now. Like, so let's have it. Like, man, that would be great.
Yeah.
One thing I'm seeing though, especially as we talk about rules, and one of the challenges I've had is like when the rules are dependent on me, like completing something in a regular cadence, like that's where I get challenged. And I see the journal, like last entry from Friday.
Yeah.
How do we catch up, or what's happening there?
So there's where my brain goes when I hear what you're saying. That is, I've gotten in the habit of, because by the way, I as a human need to sleep. So I've gotten in the habit where I can be working on multiple projects. Let's say it's a newsletter for a client. Let's say it's a landing page for a client. Let's say it's a new course or training for us. At the end of that conversation, I've gotten the habit of like, hey, what are the next 3 things that we should do to complete this? Or what are the next 4 things to do to complete this? And then I'll say, sweet. What I want you to do is I want you to make it when we start a new conversation working on, in this case, a client, or we start a new conversation and it's on this project. I want you to add into memory and into the journal these 3 or 4 things and like good starting point information. And then, Chris, one of the things I've added to this is a /save context. And what it does above everything that we've talked about is it saves to change log, it saves to memory, it saves to second brain. And so it puts all of those like restart points. So now if I come in, I was like, hey, 2 days ago, I was working on XYZ. Can you give me the 3 to 4 things we're going to be doing next and the starting information that I need to know? It's there. It saved it. So I'm leaving myself, call me Hansel, call me Gretel. I'm leaving myself breadcrumbs for the next time that I open up my assistant and start to work together.
Okay.
Yep.
So, so it's you've got to do some stuff to leave the breadcrumb. Like, so help me just square the circle, because I am thinking, and this is like human tendencies of like, as long as the chain is going, it gets easier to keep it going. But once you break it, easy to not come back to it. And like, I'm losing my mind right now. I was like, how is George going to fill in that gap? Like Friday, oh man, he's missing out. Like there's breadcrumbs in here somewhere. Like, why don't we see any journals since Friday?
Well, so you got to remember that Friday was the Friday before a weekend, holiday weekend.
Yep.
You also have to remember there are days, believe it or not, I swear to God, I tell the truth, there are days that I don't use AI. There are days that I don't log into my assistant. And so what I could do to fill this gap right now, Chris, and this might blow some people's minds, is my Fridays is a lot of internal meetings with my team. So I can check up on the humans and see how they're doing and what they're thinking and get them to give me some ideas on some things that we might do as an organization. Right now, I could go over to my command center, which, by the way, I haven't shown you yet. And I could be like, Echo, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go to Friday, what would have that been? It would have been Friday the 23rd. No, 22nd. I could be like, Echo, I need you to go to Friday the 23rd, and I need you to pull all my Zoom meetings, all my internal Zoom meetings, and I want you to go ahead and just intake those, put them, any important conversations that I had or things I need to remember, put those in the system, and then also make sure that you create a journal entry for that day, even though we didn't really work together. You'll know more about what happened on that Friday. Beep,
Right.
bop, boop. It goes and grabs it. Because, by the way, I've given my brain hands. It's connected to Gmail. It's connected to Calendar. It's connected to Zoom. It's connected to like all, right? So it can go and do the things. It's not just smart, it's capable.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
It
saying?
has access.
Yeah, yes, without a doubt. Yes.
It's how we connected to things like HubSpot too.
Oh yeah. You'll see that here in a hot minute. Yeah, without a doubt. So let's pivot, because this is cool, right? This is cool. But of course, you know me, it's where's the turbo and where's the fin? Like I need to do some fast and furious on this bad boy, right? And so I started to think and watch videos around these people, Hermes Command Center and Nemo, blah, 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 and this word command center kept coming up. And I'm like, actually, this is very valuable. Let me pull that thread, because if I can get all things in one place, remember I talked about consolidation, this would be amazing. So it was a Saturday morning, and I went to Claude Code, and I said these words, and it changed my future. I said, Claude, I'm super curious. Do you have the capability to build Obsidian plugins? To which Claude responded to me and said, absolutely, George. I know exactly how to build Obsidian plugins. And so what I'm about to show you, because again, you know I like to simplify the complex, Chris, is what I'm about to show you is the Main Brain Command Center plugin that we coded together, Claude Code and I, to build the command center on top of the Obsidian structure of the main brain that is folders, files, and rules. Okay. And also that allows us to bring in some other tools. But it's just a plugin. I could turn it off right now. It would go away. I'm not going to. But what the command center is, and I'll just go new chat. So we're sitting on a new chat. What the command center is, Echo is first up. Echo's my kind of working partner. And what I want you to realize is I can hit a microphone and I can talk to Echo, or I can use my whisper flow and talk to Echo as well. But what's fun, Chris, is I'm gonna ask Echo a question real quick. It's gonna take a little bit to bebop, boop, and think, but we'll talk while we're doing that. But then, Chris, what I did is I shared my audio. Hopefully with StreamYard, it'll work. But I just want everybody to kind of see what happens in a situation here. So I'm just going to ask the question. Hey, Echo, question. If I did a quick webinar on kind of the main brain that we've built in the command center, do you think that you could give me like the top 2 things that I should talk about on that webinar? And so I just used whisper flow versus the mic there, but I'm going to hit enter. And now notice it didn't open a terminal. It didn't need to open a terminal because it's basic, but it's using my terminal. And here's a question that it's like a SDK or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's using my terminal without needing to open terminal. I don't need to be nerdy enough to know. I just got it to work. And the cool part about this is that means that I legally can use my Claude Code subscription because it's actually using my terminal that is what it's designed to do anyway with the CLI. So I'm not breaking any rules, but I've got a completely different system that I can, by the way, put in plan mode, have in auto mode. Oh, now we'll give it a second. And Chris, you have to tell me if you can hear it when I hear it. But I can put it in auto mode. It's paying attention to the tokens I'm using so I don't get context rot. And I can get back to historical or new chats. Okay. And so what we should hear here in a hot second, because by the way, I'd be doing work and then all of a sudden I'd hear it talk to me.
2 things, and they're the only 2 that matter.
Can you hear that?
Awe is sacred.
Yep.
The Carpathy second brain architecture. Most people use AI like a chatbot and lose every input. You built a wiki that compounds. Drop a transcript once, and 6 months later it's a wiki page, a backlink, a journal note, and source material for a blog post you haven't written yet. The folder discipline is the moat. Raw/append only, wiki/ as the linked graph, intake/ as the inbox, journal/ as the trail. Demo the flow. Drop a meeting transcript, right arrow / process intake, right arrow wiki pages appear with backlinks, right arrow / recall surfaces it months later. Identities, why your AI doesn't sound like AI. This is the differentiator nobody else has.
Sounding familiar,
Most AI
Chris?
content sounds like
Mhm.
ChatGPT because there's no voice profile. You have identities / George B. Thomas. MD, signature moves, banned words, real talk, sample passages, parent inheritance, client inherits from sidekick inherits from you. Demo, / write something in your voice, then the same brief in Quinn's voice or Carly's voice. Side by side. People will lose their minds, architecture plus voice. Skip everything else, command center, cron, skills, unless you have time. Those are surfaces. The two above are the why.
So go ahead.
Did you press anything to get her
No,
to start
no.
talking to you?
So I have this button that I can hit play, but then I was like, I don't want to hit play. I'm lazy. So I literally created the plugin to just go ahead and answer me. So again, I can be working on stuff. It can be bop booping. And then basically what I just enabled Echo to do is tap me on the shoulder because she walked over to my desk and said, hey, George, here's the information you wanted me to research, or here's the thing you wanted me to build. Let me know where you're at. Let me know whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. It lets me know where it's at with it, right? So it literally is becoming a work partner. Okay. So now you got to see that. Now, here's the thing. Today, I just come in here, by the way, I hit refresh brief. What it does is it goes out to, and I'll just close this for a second. It goes out to my calendar, my ClickUp, my Gmail, my Slack, and my HubSpot. So the reason I did that, Chris, is because those are the tools that I use. This is a thread that I want people to pull on. I want them to pull on, this is my system. Do not build my system, build your system. What are the things that you need to know? What's the identity that you have? What are the tools that you use? And what hands do you need to give your assistant, right? And so it'll literally go out and it'll pull these things in a process. Again, what's happening right now in real life, I'm walking out to my kitchen, I'm making my morning mushroom coffee, I'm talking to the wife, I'm telling her to have a good day, and I come back in and my brief is here. I didn't have to worry about a cron job. I didn't have to worry about fighting with a routine breaking. I didn't have to worry about, is it going to GitHub? It's like, nope, I come in my office, I hit a button and I go do the thing. Okay. Now I set up the same thing where if all of a sudden I'm on a meeting and I'm like, tell Chris about this thing. Well, now what it's going to do is it's going to literally give me the note that I need to tell Chris about this thing. Now, so I can quickly capture little things if I want to along the way. It's also allows me to pull the Slack messages, so I don't have to have Slack open to let me know if there's people that I need to reply to or certain threads that are going on. I can run a triage on my email where I set up AI tags of like AI needs response, AI needs done, AI trashes. It's a piece of crap. Somebody trying to get a podcast episode for something you don't even do anymore. Like, anyway, it triages my email and then today's calendar, and you'll see like I can join from here. I can open the calendar, whatever it is that I can see who's actually joining the thing. And so you can literally see like a snapshot of like my day right in this area. I have that for the week. By the way, this tab is HubSpot. I can see data from HubSpot. I can see data from clients. This is one thing that people get excited about. It's like, and I got this question before, Chris. Hey, so how do you get all the information in there? Well, if I had a meeting with, let's say, NASDAQ Center today, I can just hit pull. And it's going to go out to the tool that it needs. It's going to pull the transcript. It's going to put it in intake. It's going to run the process. It's going to create the wikis. It's going to store it in raw. It's going to add to the journal. And all I did was have to push one button, which I'll push later. So we're not sitting here looking at that screen. My agent team is here. And the task that I have my agent team doing shows Hub Heroes, Women of HubSpot, and the Sidekick YouTube channel. All of this has to do with like what I'm shipping, because here's the things that we've either used in webinars or published to the web or things that got stuck. And so again, I have like this whole like, publishing queue and send to HubSpot as a draft. And because again, APIs are the coolest crap on the planet. So is Terminal. And I never used them really that much before 9 months ago. But I've got an inbox, which again, quick capture for something if I wanted to do that. And then a health of the system is sitting here as well. And again, I didn't have to leave Obsidian. I'm having conversations. I'm building things. I'm checking my email. I'm looking to see if I need to Slack anybody. And I'm actually doing client work in one of the other 2 or 3 screens that I have while this whole thing is taking place.
That was my last question. My ADHD requires that I be in more than one session at a time. Is that just different, like Obsidian windows, or?
Well, if you're talking about Echo sessions, or if you're talking about Claude Code sessions, I can tell you that I will have 1, 2, or 3 terminals out here, up here. Because what I have found, Chris, is there are terminals that I'm doing like deep work in. But then there's talking to Echo and creating the plan that gets saved into here that I can then get Terminal to go look at a plan we built. Think of it as more of a back and forth type situation here. However, 90% of the plugin, because it was here, was me getting Echo to build the plugin. But there was a terminal or 2 running on other things. And by the way, that's what I hope people will understand is like, I can be building a newsletter for a client, a landing page for a client, and an entire brand new training for us. At the same time, I'm listening to a podcast on Spotify to learn something. Or, Chris, what I really need to show you before we get out of here is, we learn stuff new every day. So let's say, for instance, Chris, all of a sudden I wanted to go to youtube.com and let's say I wanted to learn the latest thing on, let's do Claude Map.
If you're using AI,
I'm not really going to do it, but let's say I watch this video and I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about this, or I want Obsidian to know that I learned this so that we can think about it in the future. By the way, think about HubSpot super admin videos right now when I say this as a HubSpot person. But what I have, Chris, is I have this Obsidian web clipper. And what you can do with the web clipper is you can give it templates. So notice it's pulling in the information, but then I have it like, hey, I want you to create Sidekick content seed. I want you to get the core idea of it in my voice. I want a hook options if I was going to talk about it, a LinkedIn post if I want to share about it, a podcast talking points if I want to put it on the Hub Heroes podcast, blog headline options if I want to create content around it, email newsletter angle if I want to add it to my newsletter. And then, by the way, you'll see down here is just the full transcript of the freaking video that I just got done watching because it needs it for the raw folder so it can get back to the actual thing. And so I just hit add to Obsidian and it does its thinking. It's bebop booping. This does cost me a few API tokens because I'm using that hooked up in that way. But now all of a sudden what I just hit is going into my second brain. And now I can go back in and talk to Echo. Hey, I just added this to the brain. I want to create this newsletter. Can we use this as kind of the foundation of what we're going to talk about for the intro piece? But here's my thoughts on it. Let's go ahead and create Sidekick Signals episode or issue 5 and have that be like the main talking point.
This is better than me.
And look, brother. Do you see where it took me? Do you see where it took me? It got done with Web Clipper and automatically took me understanding anything versus Graphy, tested both on my SaaS. And here, remember when I said the core idea, why this matters, hook, yeah. LinkedIn, it's all in here. Boom. And I can even watch the video from my Obsidian area. So like, tell me, and it's connected to the other things that are now in my brain because of that front matter and like any links that it gets added to once, like, anyway, right. I'll stop. I'll stop.
You got me.
Yeah.
This is literally today. And this is like why we're trying to get people like there's so many layers that you've learned along the way in the last 6 months that are required to even like understand what you can do with AI, like the value of going to find something on YouTube and like search, bring it in. But as you start to build this foundation, like all of these little efficiencies that get created, because what I did today was I got a notification for a YouTube video that I've been waiting on.
Yep.
I go to the YouTube video. I click on show more. I go find the transcript. I then go and click and I drag and I copy the whole transcript, bring it over to Perplexity, say, do some deep research on this, create a guide for me. I create that guide, give me a handoff prompt to Claude Code. Then I bring it into Claude Code, into the terminal. And now I can do whatever command, like basically that command, like that skill, that template that you just did, where it's like one button click. I had to do all that to get to the point, and I still don't get a human readable version of the thing with YouTube playing with playable YouTube.
Can I give you the words that come right to my mind, my human mind, when I hear all of the words coming out of your mouth about that process? Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Close us out, brother. They've had enough. Close us out.
Oh man, yeah. Close it out so I can download this transcript and start building my own second brain. I think.
There you go.
There you go. We're at. That's what we're here for, folks. Like this show is going to be all about show and tell, building stuff, what it looks like to be AI native, and just think in these dramatically different, but still, when we talk about files and folders, there's nothing new. There's no new technology there, right? It's still about structure and knowing what you want to do and how to ask questions and ask for what you want so that you can work with AI to get it done. That's what being AI native is about. Not about replacing the humans at all, helping humans do amazing things with everything that they know that's in their first brain. So until next time, appreciate you showing us all that second brain goodness, George B.
You bet, my friend.
I'll see everybody next time.